We're talking about men have it harder under patriarchy. We're talking about in modern times. We're talking about the way that they suffer individually or as a group as a patriarch. This is something that you left out of every sentence. You always said men. Men do this, men do that. We don't care what men do. We're talking about patriarchs. Men have it harder under patriarchy. Beth has the affirmative. Beth is the one, basically Beth saying that men do, in fact, have it harder under patriarchy. Confluence is taking the opposite view and saying men don't actually have it harder under patriarchy. I'm assuming that's what his viewpoint is. He will let us know. At any rate, we're going to start off with 7-minute intros. Please, try and keep it to 7 minutes. If you go longer, I'm just going to stop you, and I might mute you, but I doubt I will because I'm just not that hardcore. I'm not that hardcore about this stuff, guys. The one thing is just the over talking and the just allowing it to devolve into a shouting match. It's just not good TV, and we're here to make good TV.
I think we're going to do just fine. He's
okay.
Very polite.
Everybody says that right before the nuclear goes off.
Well, I don't want to be too contentious. And I should do fine on my opening. It's like 6.5 minutes, as long as I don't stumble.
That's fine. Okay. All right. Now, the other thing is once we have that intro, we're going to go immediately into the open debate portion. You guys will have about an hour and a half for that. We'll stop you. You'll each have another 7 minutes to give your closing. And then we may or may not have time to bring people up. I don't know. I don't know what time you kids have to get to bed. So, Beth, you are the affirmative. Before we start, would you guys like to tell people who you are, where you can be found, why they should pay attention to you at all?
Oh, geez. Well, I think most people know me. My name is Beth Mayhew. I debate on grids a lot. I'm getting some echo back. It might be
do you have a window open?
No. Or, well, I do, but it's muted. Confluence, do you have a window open? Is your YouTube window open?
I'm on headset and it's pretty quiet.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Try again.
Better. Whatever it was is fixed. Oh wait, shit! I turned off my. I think
you had your phone on, didn't you?
No.
Okay.
No, all I did was I accidentally muted the whole laptop and then turned it back on because I'm an idiot like that. So yeah, I debate on grids night here and there. Kind of a nomad, hop around. Over to Glen Lawrence, Flow State, 10th Man, wherever's the fun's happening. So yeah. Nothing.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, and I
go ahead, Confluence.
Okay, I'm Confluence. Most people probably don't know me. I've only been on Grid's show a couple of times. I've been trying to cut my teeth into the YouTube debate sphere. I've been a small channel YouTuber for like a year and a bit now. You can find me on Confluence 358. I make political content that's trying to entertain and uplift for a center-right audience. So you should definitely check that out. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about myself.
I had you as center-left. I'll have to change that.
Yeah, God, no.
Okay. All right. Okay, now that we have you guys, your worldviews, Beth, you have the affirmative, which means that you will start. And just start talking, and I'll start the timer.
Okay. First of all, thank you to Grid for hosting this exchange tonight. This will be my first long-form debate here on an Unreasonable Man, and I'm honored to speak up for the men in the patriarchy. Thank you to Confluence for being so excited to take on this topic, or take this topic to a long form. Our speed to debate was a lot of fun, but I think we still had a lot more to say on the topic. And of course, thanks to everybody watching. Many people like to make this topic into a battle for control between the sexes. Like it or not, it's a joke to think that we're on equal footing. While there's certainly outliers in either sex, they are so inconsequential that they can barely be factored into the rule. Women of larger statures or who have always been tomboyish still tend to conform to typical gender roles, usually once the drive hits them to become a mother. So please forgive me as I'll be speaking past them generally throughout this debate. I've never believed that men and women can even compete with one another. We are complementary to each other by design of our Creator. From the beginning of mankind, it's been the men leading the way. Biblically speaking, men are charged by God to lead his wife, family, and even his community. Tribally, men made the decisions for their families, and they were the force that ensured their survival and eventual flourishing into great nations. Sure, we had some queens. They did an excellent job sending men off into battles and posting men to secure their borders and having men build their infrastructure. But it has been the men who hunted the beasts and defended the families, and yes, like it or not, created the next generation. Women are indeed the vessel and provide that crucial nourishment to get a child to at least the age of 1 when it can begin eating food. But the truth is that we have a set number of eggs which will be released and more often than not passed with no child to show for it. Men never stop producing sperm. It determines the sex of the baby, and the sperm is capable of living within the woman's body for up to 5 days, just hanging out, waiting for an egg to possibly drop so they have something to fight over. Tough little bastards right from the start, despite countless unintentional or even intentional nut shots throughout a boy's life. I'm sure there's some men who may argue they're lucky too, considering where they get to hang out for damn near a week straight and the glorious death that they meet without a job other than an orgasm. It is the men who shoulder not only the work, but also the responsibility, who make up the great patriarchy so many of us lovingly speak of. However, the opposition would have them painted as oppressors. In addition to carrying their God-given job, they are now charged with impossible standards, overlooked despite their efforts, and often victimized by a world poisoned since the early days with feminism. The list of weapons used against men grows daily. Competing with women in the workplace, watching every word he utters to avoid an HR meeting, praying that a draft doesn't ship him away to risk life and limb, trying to walk off a broken leg so that he doesn't miss any work or shake his image of strength in the eyes of his family. And with his wife and children absorbing the rhetoric within the media, he now has a war within his own home. God forbid that he cries when his mother dies, wouldn't want to appear weak. He must work endlessly to meet the needs and buy all of the frills and shills of a materialistic world that his wife and children just have to have. That is, if he's even lucky enough to have children that he creates, thanks to the right of bodily autonomy. How about when life gets tough and his wife sees a better opportunity or even just lacks empathy? If he raises his voice in frustration, he runs the risk of going to jail and being barred from even calling his children. Here comes the divorce, where historically the mother gets custody and he gets put out of his own home and forced to pay alimony on top of the child support. Sure, he's eager to provide for his children, but not for his wife to go on dates. I have no doubt my opponent will bring feminism into this fight, so let's talk about it. Biologically, we see huge differences, whether we're speaking to size, hormones, or even thought patterns. This is why the idea of force doctrine has been so widely uncontested in any meaningful way. To those who say that it is arguable, I'd like to point your efforts to championing for Imani Khalif and the like thereof, and just leave you there. We all know they only cry when their sister or daughter is getting beat up by a man or approached in a bathroom. Yet, in a twisted turn of things, they just load it up as more ammo to fire at the men after they encouraged it in the first place. Women are not oppressed. We are a protected class, even within biblical times. Most do not realize it, but the covenant of marriage and fulfilling patriarchal duties came under the threat of death. There is also Old Testament scriptures, which calls for the death of those who commit SA, and in some cases, the entire community that supported them. Women have always had the ability to work, even going back to gathering food and helping the man care for the community in tribal days. They've always had access to education, as we see from writings and art going back to the BC era. They've always been pampered based on jewelry and perfumes, and so much more that's documented back to the ancient man. They have screamed for equality, and in error, been given exactly what they asked for. This is the true mistake of the benevolent patriarchy, as not the freedoms, the so-called equality, or even the pampered perks will ever be enough. At the end of the day, it is the man who is not missed as much. He was never there anyways, after all. He dies earlier on average, and his funeral will be small compared to the pension and life insurance that's passed along to those who carry his name. Regardless of how great that name is within society, regardless of how great or minute that name is within society, he has fought to even just be a man without having to apologize for it. This is the picture of patriarchy I pray you hear tonight, despite the incessant whining feministic rhetoric. Thank you to the husbands, the fathers, and the men who make humanity all that it is. I'm done.
All right. Perfect. Excellent. All right. Are you ready, Confluence?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Firstly, I am pro-patriarchy. So this is not a patriarchy versus non-patriarchy debate, but rather the question is who suffers more under patriarchy, men or women? Secondly, I do not see patriarchies as binaries. There's clearly degrees of patriarchal systems, and it is my contention that both the degree of patriarchy and how it is enacted determine how good its outcomes are. In this way, it is analogous to capitalism. I am pro-capitalism, but I, like most people, want some things to remain in the public sector. City police, for example. I also think there must be constraints put on capitalism because unfettered capitalism can lead a company's cost being offloaded to consumers in sneaky and immoral ways. For example, a company dumping waste products into the environment. I bring up capitalism only to make an analogy with patriarchal systems. In the same way, if patriarchy is not correctly balanced, it goes too far, or if it's unconstrained, its effects are disastrous upon women. Thirdly, I want to point out that I think Beth and I agree on a lot, and so we're going to be doing our very best to find the points of disagreement we do have and really dig into them. We agreed we'd be taking the topic in a broad sense, so I want to lay out my position to reflect that. When we're talking about patriarchy, we can't be so myopic as to only apply it to current day United States, nor can we apply it solely to women's suffrage, nor can we apply it solely to biblical life in Jerusalem, in Judea and Samaria. Any of these areas is fine to look at, and we undoubtedly will be jumping through space and time throughout this debate. But I think this fourth dimensional approach of being free to travel, both temporally and also locally, is actually required in a discussion like this. I think, and I don't know if Beth would disagree with this, that patriarchy at least can be far more disastrous for women than it can for men. UNICEF reported last year that 230 million girls were the victims of female genital mutilation or female circumcision. I don't think that would be true if the system they were living under in, say, Somalia or Sudan was egalitarian. According to the Guttmacher Institute, almost 50% of women in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been victims of SA. Coincidentally, only 12% of their congressional seats are held by women. Compare that to America, where women make up roughly 25% of the Senate and 30% of the House of Representatives. A final example from the Bible this time, as yes, I am a Christian, is Deuteronomy 21:10-4 gives explicit guidelines on taking what, if I wasn't a Christian, I'd probably be calling sex slaves. But because I am a Christian, I'm not going to call it that, but I'll just read the passage. When you go to war against your enemies and the Lord your God gives them into your hand and you take them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire to take her to be your wife, and you bring her home to your house, you shall shave her head and par her nails. And she shall take off her clothes in which she was captured, and shall remain in her house and lament her father and her mother a full month. After that you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. But if you no longer delight in her, you shall let her go where she wants, but you shall not sell her for money, nor shall you treat her as a slave, since you have humiliated her. I'm sure Beth can agree this is kind of rough. You take this woman from her homeland, you shave her head, you give her a month of mourning, because I mean, you're a good dude, right? And then you have sex with her. And then if you no longer take delight in her, you can just send her away after, you've taken her by force from her country, non-consensually deflowered her. But don't worry, you can't sell her for money at least. And Beth, I know, would agree that women in the biblical societies were treated far better than women in other cultures throughout the world in the same time. So I don't think I need to go in my opening statement to explain the horrors women have gone through throughout space and time outside of biblical culture. The point of these examples is to show that when patriarchy goes too far or doesn't care about women, it is incredibly disastrous for the fairer sex. And yes, were biblical times harsh for men too? Is the Congo harsh to men? Is Somalia harsh to men? Undoubtedly. But just to use one example, if I had to be born in the Congo today, I would much rather be born a man there than be born a woman. And I think most people, if given the choice, would choose likewise. Beth may retort that this is not the fault of the patriarchy, but of other factors like culture or Islam or barbarism. And I would retort to her retort that's retarded. The prompt is who suffers more under patriarchy. We cannot only look at the best enacted patriarchal systems to answer that question. Because I agree with Beth insofar that if patriarchy is correctly calibrated, we can see optimum flourishing for men and women. So I'm not an egalitarian. I do think we need to have patriarchal societies. My stance is that because human nature is what it is, and because male nature is what it is, and because human biology is what it is, we'll often get this delicate balance wrong. And every time we get it wrong, the tendency is to move toward oppression, gender based violence, and subjugation. I would also like to point out the irony of the patriarchy reassuring women that is hurting men more than it is hurting women. It conjures to my mind the image of a father beating his child, telling the child, "This hurts me more than it hurts you." Hell, maybe that's even true, but it's cold comfort to the child. And when we're dealing with adult women, it feels a little sneaky to tell them, "Trust us, I know we're in charge of society, but you would suffer more if you had more say." Again, it could be true, but I just want to reflect on the irony of that. Surely no man would put up with that. For example, if you're a Christian living in a Muslim country and had dhimmi status, being a second-class citizen, being barred from legal positions and eschewed certain rights, having to pay extra tax via the jizya, how would you feel if a Muslim man said to you, "Oh, you poor dhimmi, you just don't get it. Under our system of Sharia law, the Muslims have way more responsibility than you do. We have it way harder. You just don't understand. But we suffer more than you under this system we have set up that we control, that we have put you as a second-class citizen in. And you can't change it. You just have to trust that we have it worse." Would anyone here accept their logic? They might go along living in that society and it might not be so bad, but it'd be a little convenient that the people who are in charge are telling you that they're actually suffering more than you are, and you can't change them places, of course. It starts to feel a bit Orwellian to my mind. Now, I'm in the unique position of debating Beth, a creature racked with internalized misogyny. Just kidding, Beth, who is claiming exactly that she thinks men suffer more, despite them making the vast majority of laws, holding the vast majority of seats of political power, despite there never being any real civilized matriarchal society by which to compare things to. To be clear, I'm neither anti-patriarchy nor am I pro-feminist. I just think that patriarchy has to be modulated in the exact right way for it to be such that it benefits both men and women. And I think from the examples I've given and the innumerable ones I haven't, they show that when that modulation is off at all, it is disastrous for women. I think some egalitarianism is beneficial, but I think both Beth and I would agree we still live in a patriarchy. And so to me, the crux of the issue is finding the degree of patriarchy that is best for both genders.
All right. Perfect. All right. So that was a very good opening. I am going to let's go ahead and set this timer. And you guys did really well. I'm actually really happy with the way you guys had your openings there. And I will refrain from any further comment. Whoops, sorry.
Just say when.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep messing.
Take your time. Do your thing for a
All
second.
right. Are you guys ready?
A second to do our notes.
Okay. You guys can take a second. You guys let me know when you're ready.
I think I'm ready when you are.
To the chat, don't forget to grift. Grifting is now tax-free. I don't have to pay income taxes on the grift because I do not offer a menu and I do not perform a service for the grift. It's simply a tip because you like my stuff. I got to figure out something for a Friday night show. We're going to have to do away with some of the. We're going to have to reconfigure. I'm working on it. But ladies and gentlemen, grift away, knowing that I get to keep more of it, and the government gets less. But YouTube keeps the same amount. YouTube cares not at all. All right. You guys ready? Just start
Your
speaking.
thing. So, you're good? We going?
Yeah.
Great.
fine.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, that first of all, I mean, thank you for agreeing with me at least 3 times that, patriarchy is a good thing and there is a delicate balance. And I can agree with that. I think the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot more to the responsibilities that come with it than a lot of people even realize, like, including the fact that a lot of it is under the threat of death on the man himself. What do you think about that?
I think responsibility is an important thing to look at, but to me, to weigh that up, especially again, if we're talking patriarchy in general, we're not talking, societies now. We're talking all throughout space and time. We're talking Bible, non-Bible. We're talking history, prehistory. I think women have been subjugated so much that to talk about responsibility, to me, that almost like pales in comparison to all the lack of agency and a lack of ability and the pain that women have gone through throughout history. Because I think you and me would agree that in biblical times, like women had it better than in other societies, but women still didn't have it great in biblical times either, right? Or would you disagree on that?
I would disagree because I think that, well, first of all, listen, I'll absolutely admit there are some cultures that still exist today that are brutal on women. However, they're also brutal on their men. The men who lead those households, if they fail in their responsibility, they don't have to worry. It's not the government that takes them out. That's like a responsibility of the family, and that husband usually just disappears.
But I guess,
However,
so, but not to
even
interrupt, but in those societies, like if we look at like in Afghanistan, led by the Taliban now since the Biden pullout, or if we look at like Somalia, or if we look at the Congo, surely I agree with you that men suffer enormously in those places too, but women suffer more. Like surely we could agree to be a woman under Taliban leadership would suck way more than being a man, right? They both suck, but if you have to pick the lesser of two evils, you're gonna want to have XY chromosomes, right?
in those cultures, if you're caught essaying a woman, it's automatic death. I mean, like they don't even pause for it. It's social justice.
Well, right, but that's we look at we look at Iran, for example, and we see like the morality police, we see like the acid attacks, we see like if you're caught doing essay and you get killed, well, that's kind of like a fuck around and find out situation. None of us feel sympathy toward that. But there's a lot of women that get killed based on like honor killings where it's not an essay event at all. I mean, Sharia culture is I
It's
think you
brutal.
would agree Sharia culture is worse for women, surely. Like
I
that's got to be something
certainly
we could.
wouldn't want it here, and that's why we look to the patriarchy that we are established, trying to support within this country in order to try to make these changes.
Okay, but do
This
you,
is something that has to, it's much like how Christianity had to spread throughout the world, right? The sense of patriarchy has been suppressed, and this is something that's been happening for thousands of years. I mean, you can even look back and find where women protested at the Senate in 300 BC Rome because they wanted to have uh, the freedom to buy very expensive items without their husband's permission, even though, he's controlling, essentially it's going against patriarchy. So, I mean, like you can see where feminism bleeds in way far back, a lot further back than some people realize, which kind of, it even shocked me to look at it, right? But so just like how Christianity had to spread, we need to reestablish true patriarchy in order to change these cultures. And
okay,
that's when you brought up this biblical passage, that is essentially assimilation that's taking place. And when you look at the different types of quote unquote marriage for the time period, I actually did like a deep dive on this with someone else. Um, Sex was, especially when you had wives that came in from like your brother died or you took in a war bride or something, sex was not a requirement of those relationships. So the fact that it's implied is a problem, because I can sit here and throw right back at you.
I mean, to be clear, it's not implied. It's directly stated, implicit
It
in the
says
text.
they
Like,
can. they can.
It says he shall go into her, I believe is the wording.
For the time frame, concubines and war brides, it was not a requirement to have sex with them. And as a matter of fact, in the very same
what
chapter,
the text says.
in the very same book, dude, very same book. Where are we here? It's Deuteronomy 22.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is it? I went right past it. From where is this one? You have verses that go from starting on verse 23 through the end of the chapter that help set some parameters for when it comes down to different situations. And specifically in 25, that is outlining what happens when a man grapes a woman. The woman is to be held blameless if she's screaming for help.
I mean, it's funny. It's funny that you bring up this.
Funny
This
the one
actually,
right before that.
this isn't the passage that I actually did bring up, but
I know.
This, to me, do you look at this passage and you don't think that women were suffering at this time? This passage literally says that if a woman is graped in town, that she gets stoned. I said grape.
Oh, sorry, my bad. My bad.
Yeah, I said, at least I think I said grape.
It says and did not. However, there's a caveat to it. She's not screaming for help.
Well, it doesn't.
The wife of another
man. It could be that no one heard her scream, right? Like we got to use modern logic to this, right? If we would never apply this. We would never apply this in a real life standard.
Are you familiar with what these towns looked like and how they operated? Did you think that they had insulation and windows?
You don't think it's like I don't want to get graphic. You don't think a man that we always talk about on the red pill are so much more powerful than women, which men are. You don't think a man could cover a woman's mouth so that she couldn't scream somewhere in the bounds of town and still essay her? You think that every essay that possibly could happen?
With the way that towns operated then. Okay, it's not like that. These are like open air market areas that are extraordinarily busy because
there's no place in the world that's like that, Beth. There's no
I've
place in the world.
actually been to some of these places. I mean, sure, yeah, now they're friggin' old, but like you can see, I mean, like this isn't like the houses that we have now.
It's impossible that someone could be like dragged into an alleyway.
Outside isn't going to hear it.
You don't think there's somewhere? You don't think there's any way to cover? You talked about how much stronger men are than women in your opening. You don't think there's any way that you could cover a woman's mouth that she could not scream to the point that she would wake someone up? You think that's just categorically
not
impossible?
When we're talking about busy marketplaces like that. Okay?
We're talking. It could be at nighttime.
This is specifically outlining. Okay. This is the other thing.
It's a bit of a this law might work like 70% of the time.
What version are you reading out of by any chance? I'm looking at ESV. Okay.
Yeah, I can switch to. I'm down with
the
ESV.
word. There's a word that is used. Oh, where is it? Hang on. I actually wrote this one down because even I was kind of interested in it. There's a word that is found specifically in the original verses for this. It's CH. Where did I write it? The word for that's used in this passage of Deuteronomy in the Hebrew is CHAZAQ. Okay, and it's
in which verse?
In the original Hebrew.
No, but which verse are we talking? I'll pull it up in the Hebrew.
The middle passage. Okay, it's not used.
Give it a quote. Give me a quote. Like the
25 to 27. It's going to be in there. Okay, when it comes down to.
Well, I need to know, Beth. Can you give me the actual citation?
I'm trying to tell you. Listen, wait. This is why.
Give me the citation though, so I can look up the Hebrew word. Like you're quoting a Hebrew word in a specific verse. I want to know the verse.
Hang on. Yes, I just said. In 25, where it actually says grape, the word that is used in the original Hebrew,
25, right?
The word that is associated with this passage is CHAZAQ. Okay, and that is a word that is associated with violence. You do not find that word in the passage before it. Okay. So for whatever reasons in 23 through 24, it is not considered a grape. It's not. So again, that's why it's not counting in towards that, honey.
That no,
You
I mean
find the
that's
same
just
word.
that's
You
a
find the
bad.
same word in Judges 19, where there is a long story about a situation where a woman is raped. It's the woman of Bethlehem, and it leads to a whole out war where they kill an entire tribe over it for condoning it. And then
Sure, but if
again,
you,
you
I'm looking
find
at my concordance right now, Beth. I mean,
Mhm.
there's some times in the Bible where that word is translated as you said to imply some type of force. Most of the time, it's not. Sometimes it's translated as encouraged or repaired or strengthened or taken or take courage or uphold or harden or caught or this isn't a word that implicitly.
look at the context of the verses that we are looking at. We are looking at verses where there is something that is taking place against women. You do not find this word in the passages 20 in the verses 23 and 24 because it is not a forceful grape. Okay? But I'm not getting stuck on this grape argument with you.
Well, that
All
that
right.
feels
What
awfully
I'm saying
convenient.
is what I'm saying is there no, you can't argue it because this is where it's found. It's found there, it's found again in Judges, and it's found again in Second Samuel.
It's found
All both of those other
hundreds
two
of
stories.
times.
Hang on.
That word you quoted is
Wait.
found hundreds of times in the
Stop
Old
what
Testament. It's
you're
not always
putting
violent. It's
you're
not even
putting
most of the
it
time
into
violent.
different contexts. Yes, it is. It's most of the time it is violence, strength, force along those lines.
Well,
When it
I
comes
guess
down
I don't
to
want to get hung up on this, but readers can look it up
when it yeah, when
on
it
their
comes
concordances at home.
okay.
That's not what it means. The
Look
Hebrew.
at what you're talking about. You're talking number one, you're talking about a language that had a very limited vocabulary. Number two, you're talking about a specific situation. So of course, if there is an implication of force in this part where it says the woman shall be held blameless and he shall be put to death right there and then, okay? However, yeah, okay, I'm gonna also use force to what, erect a house. Yeah, okay, I can see where that would work, but it's two totally different contexts,
No,
so
I'm
you
saying that
can't dismiss it. You can't dismiss it
I'm
that
saying the
easily.
word shows
So
up
when it
hundreds of
comes
times
down
with no implication of force whatsoever. But actually, this
duh,
actually I want to move beyond this
let's
actually.
move.
Wait, so
Absolutely,
what are you
absolutely.
what are you actually saying here? I think I just I got too lost in the sauce. Are you because you're originally saying that they
What I
live
was
in
saying.
these wait, let me keep going. First of all, you were saying that because they had such small towns, it would be impossible for a woman to be raped and no
No,
one could
the
hear.
original point you brought that
That's what
up. My
I
original
didn't say
point.
that. You said
My
that.
original point.
You said that they
Uh,
would be heard because the towns were small. Did you not say
you
that?
asked me, and I said no. I didn't say. Oh my god, I didn't say.
Wait, no.
I said
Maybe I
you brought it
misunderstood.
up. You said how could she not be heard? I said these are busy marketplaces. If you
Okay,
don't
okay.
know
So you
how they
did say that.
functioned back then,
You did
that's
say
not
that.
my fault. But my point
Okay, so
was
you did
back.
say
To,
that. You
my
did say that
point
they
is
couldn't be.
my point is back to your Deuteronomy 10 reference. Okay, you do not find that word there that implies violence. And based on the culture of the time, sex was not a requirement with those kinds of wives. It just wasn't. I'm sorry to tell you, hate to burst your bubble. Women were actually like treated far better because the men were held to a standard of responsibility
I'll
where
even
he
grant
did
you,
not take
Beth.
care. It let's say he gets a war bride and he decides not to have sex with her or
Okay,
does. It doesn't matter either way. The bottom line is that
kind
if
of does.
anything goes wrong with her under his care, he is ultimately responsible for it.
Well, okay, but you have to
He
admit
carries the
from
weight.
that passage, from the Deuteronomy passage I quoted, 21:10-14.
Mhm.
I'll concede that maybe he doesn't have to have sex, but the
You don't.
passage says he can have sex, and then if he doesn't delight in her, he can just send her away. This
He
is
can.
similar to divorce laws in Deuteronomy, where it says that
No.
yes, I mean, let's go to those next then, Beth. Let's pull those
Oh
up.
my gosh.
Let's
Listen,
let's do it.
let's go. Because guess what? By the way, in ancient Egypt, let's go back to 2686 BC, a wife was absolutely had the right to buy and inherit property, had the right to leave property to whoever they wanted, could represent themselves in court, could get divorced, and was entitled to 1/3 of the property plus anything owned before they were married. Mesopotamia, same exact
But you're
rights.
cherry
Same
picking
exact
like the two. Those are like the two most nations for being like nice towards a woman is Egypt and Mesopotamia. But that's a pivot.
You're
I
out
thought
of
we were
your
going to the
mind.
Bible. I thought we were going to the Bible.
Yes, and in the Bible, the standards that men are held to are far and above beyond that because men in these cultures weren't put to death for failing their families. The families of the wives, this is why they were called covenantal marriages.
So could a woman
Okay.
decide that she wanted to get divorced in the Old Testament? Could she decide that?
There were two reasons to get divorced in the Bible. Altogether in the whole Bible, only two given. One is abandonment and the other is adultery.
That's
Wait.
true. That's not true.
Oh, it's not.
No, I mean, can you show me one? I mean, Exodus 21:10. If he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of food, clothing, and marital rights. Okay, so
I'm gonna pause time here 1 second.
I'd like to.
My understanding of the prompt was who suffers under patriarchy. While I enjoy a good Bible lesson,
I don't want to
in a trip through ancient history.
I don't want.
I'm far more concerned, and I think our audience is, with modernity and how men today would be suffering under patriarchy. Maybe I misunderstood the prompt.
No, you didn't.
I just want to clarify because it really seems like I'm out of the loop here because I'm trying to like listen to this and I'm like, and Beth has this regression thing going on now where she wants to take it back to ancient times, like every single prompt. And I've been trying to break her of that habit. So
I got it. I'm ready. I came prepared to talk
because
more
I really don't understand. Look, I will, for both of you, I will concede that throughout history, men have done terrible fucking things in the name of patriarchy, but that doesn't in and of itself mean that men don't suffer under patriarchy.
Exactly.
So I will concede all of that for both of you. You both win. But let's talk about modernity if we could. I hate to interrupt your argument, but we've now spent 30 minutes.
Shit, that went fast.
I don't even understand. I mean, I guess I understand kind of where we're at.
If I can offer a clarification
please do.
To me, patriarchy, to look at only, I said this in my opening, to look at only modernity, I think is incredibly myopic because if anything, we have moved away from patriarchy and we're now in a more egalitarian culture. So we see tons of problems now. I mean, like we could talk about abortion, we could talk about divorce rates, but that's all the result of too little patriarchy. If the prompt is to
those are great points. Those are great points to make in your argument.
I brought it up in my opening,
but I just
right
and sure you can lay the base by saying, hey, back then it was better because men actually did lead and they were the head of the household, blah, blah, blah. Sure, we can point to the past, but you guys are literally arguing contextual things in the Bible, which I'm all for. And ordinarily I would not involve myself, but as a moderator, I have to try and at least keep you on a rail here. And if you guys think you're on a rail, man, I will back out. You guys can continue, pick up wherever you want. I just want to, and I'm not resetting. I just wanted to ask the question because this is a lot of times what happens is that you get fixated on one thing and you never make it to the end of the argument. So I just wanted to make sure you weren't penalized any time for this. I did stop the clock, so I'm going to resume the clock now. I don't know who was talking, so you guys just pick up wherever you want.
Look, I'm trying to move this into modernity. My entire point was to point out the fact of even under the religious basis, right? There is the standard that men were already held to, especially because Christianity is so predominant within many cultures. It's the most predominant religion in the world, right? We can agree on that. When you, like I said in my opening, when you take those standards that men who have faith and go to church still hold, because that is something that their faith is important to them, and then you add on everything that's taking place in modernity, men are so beat down, it's not funny. And I'm not even going red pill because, I think some red pill groups take it way too far. All right. I am more than happy to talk about divorce rates and the roles that plays on modern men.
But Beth, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but
Go ahead,
I
please.
think we would agree on that. I guess this is what I was trying to say, and I'm not sure if I'm getting my point across. And maybe I'll try to explain what I'm saying better, because I think we agree. Like, if we're talking about like the current modern man suffering, well, that's not because of patriarchy. That's because of feminism and egalitarianism. That is de facto, by definition, not patriarchy. So if we're talking about, that's why I was going into history. That's why I'm going throughout the span of time into the uncivilized world, because
Sure.
in modern day California, it's patriarchal, but it's also like a blend of egalitarianism. So all of the talk about like that men suffer in divorce court, that's not under patriarchy. That's because of egalitarianism. So I feel like,
That's because they gave entirely too many freedoms to end up to where we're
sure,
at with feminism.
sure,
We
but
want
that's
to look
not
at it,
suffering under patriarchy then. Like, that's,
it
you get what I'm
still is
saying?
under patriarchy, and in all actuality, I hate to say it, but I mean, they're suffering for their own mistake by allowing this feminist mind virus to flourish, even to the point now where we allow, people to claim they're not who they are and go into the wrong bathrooms, and men are fighting women in the Olympics.
Look, I agree,
Well,
but that it's hard. It
you
sounds
know,
like you're laying the blame of that at patriarchy, which I feel that's what's confusing me. That is the absence of patriarchy. Like, you and me would both agree that a lot of these modern things are bad, but that's because of an absence of patriarchy. The prompt is about who suffers more under patriarchy.
and that's
That's
what
the
I'm
prompt.
trying to say, is that even within patriarchy, this was their big misstep. And it is a source of their suffering, whether we like it or not. It has led to things like men not being able to see their children and paying ridiculous amounts of money and not being able to survive. Okay. Right
Yeah,
down
but
to,
again,
I
that's
mean,
egalitarianism and feminism. The prompt isn't who suffers more under feminism. The
it's
prompt is who
still,
suffers more under the
okay. Okay.
patriarchy.
So is our nation still primarily patriarchal?
Well, okay, that's a great question, because this is what I said in my opening. I don't think patriarchy is a binary. I don't think it's either you're patriarchal or you're not. I think it's on a scale, a continuum scale between egalitarianism and patriarchy. And I think my argument is that I think at a certain point you want a blend of egalitarianism and patriarchy. And I brought up the example of capitalism, where I like capitalism, but if you have too much capitalism and not enough guardrails, it leads itself to disaster. And I think with patriarchy, you have the same thing. So we've moved beyond that in culture now. There was a point that I think women were subjugated, and then I think women were given rights, and now I think we've moved beyond that, maybe with third wave, fourth wave feminism, and now we're in the shit, and now
Where
it's
do
hard
you
to get
see
out of
that
it.
women? Where do you see that women were subjugated in this, in modernity? In modernity,
But okay, well, I guess it depends on what you mean on the cutoff. Like, women have been subjugated throughout space and time, and that has
do you
been
realize?
under patriarchy.
Do you
Like,
realize
the
that
prompt wasn't
women had?
modern patriarchy. I mean, if that was, I should have prepared a lot of different notes if that was the prompt. I mean, because under patriarchy is a broad scale thing that crosses time and space, and under a patriarchal system, women have suffered immensely. If
and
the
and
argument is
we
just
are
now
we
in
are going
modernity, that's a
across
different
time and space.
discussion.
We are going across time and space. We dealt with, the more uh we dealt with the expectations in antiquity, and now we're talking about modernity and the way things are in modernity. And I'm telling you, yes, the patriarchy, this was their big misstep, was allowing feminism to take way too hard of a hold and
Okay, maybe this can
bloom
help
and blossom into
clarify.
where,
Actually, what wave? Like, are Are you a repeal the 14th Amendment type of gal, or are you like at what point did feminism become corrupt? Like, because I want to see if we can find like some common
The
agreement.
19th.
Like, are you like an Andrew Wilson, where you just
What was that, Grid?
The 19th Amendment, not the
Yeah, I was
14th.
gonna say the 19th.
oh, not the sorry, the 19th. My bad.
So that's where we start struggling, because feminism has always been, it's been around since antiquity. Okay, we can trace it all the way back into antiquity. Do I think women should vote? No, I don't. And as a matter of fact, I think it's atrocious that women got the vote before Native Americans were even granted U.S. citizenship. That's outrageous. You know what I'm saying? So where did it become corrupt? It's always been corrupt. It's just a matter of how far do they get to push it and at what cost to men. Because at the end of the day, men still have forced doctrine. How can you argue with forced doctrine?
I don't think, look, the forced doctrine thing, I mean, we can go into that. I think that's one of the areas, and hey, maybe you can help me understand. That's one of the areas that I think that I was listening to a debate today with Andrew Wilson on it, and I can't understand his point of view. I just
Okay.
I don't get it.
So it's
Because
it's actually very simple. Might makes. Not might makes might makes right. Just might makes.
Sure. I agree with that. But that's not, but it gets extended to women only have rights because men grant women rights.
Rights aren't real. And nobody has rights unless someone is there to enforce those rights.
Right.
And that comes down to the men who are in charge at the top.
It does,
but it's supposed to be at the top. Women have this idea that, this egalitarianism, overthrowing the patriarchy, is it's a pipe dream. It can never make it to where they think it can. All right, this idea that women can rise up, revolt, and overthrow the men and put them in cages, it's not going to happen.
But you know what's also a pipe dream is taking away birth control and taking away women's right to work and repealing the 19th.
Nobody is taking away women's right to work. Women have had the right to work throughout all of history. What it is it is an encouragement for women to actually stay home while their children are young and raise them.
Do you agree the other things that I said are pie in the sky? The other two things I said. Do you agree that we're never uncorking the genie that is women having control over their ability to reproduce via birth control? We're not gonna legislate progesterone. That's a red pill cope, right? It's never gonna happen.
Birth control is one thing. Abortion is a totally different animal.
Exactly. I'm talking about birth control specifically. That, do you admit that that's in the same way that you said egalitarianism is a pipe dream, which I agree it is, that repealing the 19th and getting rid of birth control, those are genies that we cannot put back in the bottle. It is too late. We're never in the U.S. going to take away women's right to vote.
Repealing the 19th is, because as a matter of fact, there's a lot of people in this country who vote and really shouldn't. And I most certainly count myself as one of them, not because I'm a woman, but because I'm, quite frankly, not intelligent enough when it comes to politics to know what kind of a decision I'm making.
Sure, but do you actually, in your heart of hearts, believe that there's going to be a period in U.S. history where the right to vote is going to be gender-based and it's going to be men voting? Because to me, that's insanity. That is red pill insanity that will never happen and doesn't help the conversation forward, because it's not going to happen.
Is it going to happen? Probably not. Should it happen for the sake of our nation? Absolutely. And I'm not saying just women. I'm saying there's a whole lot of people who shouldn't be able to vote. But I'm more interested in getting back to effects of all of this shit that it's having on men. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, men still have a lower life expectancy than women. They unalive themselves four times higher of a rate. Whereas, sure, women try 2 to 4 times higher, but they try. Men don't just try. They succeed pretty much every time, almost.
And would you say that's because of patriarchy?
I think that men have an innate desire and drive to carry the responsibility and to do the right thing and to take care of their families and their communities. And the problem is they can't anymore. men have become handcuffed by the blossoming of egalitarianism and the ideology of
But
feminism.
again, Beth, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, and I mean maybe I'm out of whack here, but if the prompt was men suffer more under egalitarianism, I would agree with you. But that's not the fucking prompt. The prompt is who suffers more under patriarchy.
It's
So all
still
the stuff you're pointing to is from egalitarian and feministic principles. I agree. Men suffer way more from modern day feminism, egalitarian nonsense, and all the freaking postmodernism we've seen over the past century.
who gave it to them? Who allowed it?
Men.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I don't know what that
Patriarchy
means.
still absolutely exists. And we see it because they're still screaming about it. That screaming
It does,
about,
I would say it barely. Like again, from
barely?
my opening. Well,
Barely?
I mean, what do we define as patriarchy? From my opening, what I think I said, I could be getting this backwards, but 25% of Senate seats are filled by women, 30% of House of Representatives are filled by women. It's not impossible to conjecture in the next 30 years that's going to be a 50-50 split. I mean, some countries already are a 50-50
No, they're going to
split.
get voted out. That voting pattern is changing because people are sick and tired of it. We see what has happened. We see the decline of society, and the patriarchy is going to step. They're already. We just saw it with the election when it came down to President Trump.
Yeah, but that's looking at one micro
because
point. If
people
you
are
look
tired
at the
of
number
it.
of female senators, let's say, over the decades, they have increasingly gone up. If you look at the number of female in the House of Representatives over the decades, they have gone up. And you can follow this through every modern civilized country.
And
The representation of females in
them.
government has gone up.
Let's talk about some of them, like that Crockett lady. Okay, she's been nice and loud, and there's a whole lot of people who look at her and are second guessing why women are in politics at all.
I agree. You can look
at the end of the day, you're talking 25% and 30%. That is nothing, sir.
That is not nothing.
Really,
it used to be like 5%. I mean, that is we are exponentially moving toward a 50-50 egalitarian government in every Western society.
It's not going to happen.
It's the stats bear it out in every Western society. That's just I'm not even saying it's good. It's just it is happening. I mean, that's just statistics.
There's still 3 times as many men that have a voice that's actually controlling things than there are women. So
I mean, yeah, but if we're talking like 30%,
fairly patriarchal.
Beth, we're talking like,
and then when it comes down to
70% to 30%, I mean, that's starting to get pretty close to even, right? Like, and especially if you compare it over the past like 30 years, I mean, we are moving in that direction, and we might be moving toward our own calumny. I can even agree with you on that. But it's just we are moving in that direction.
Super chat.
I don't
this is
believe
just
so because we are seeing the rise of Christianity throughout this country, and Christianity is based on patriarchal systems. Every home is a patriarchy in itself, and the more Christian families that we have,
in what sense?
Do you understand the definition of patriarchy?
Yes, I do.
It's
and
what?
I would say that where the male is in charge of the household,
led by the father.
Yes, and I would say that a lot of households in America do not meet that definition. I mean, single motherhood is absolutely on the rise. I mean, you have single parenthood in general. I would say the patriarchy is collapsing in America, and I think that's a bad thing. By the way, I'm on your side.
We can look at orthodoxy, and we can see the divorce rates have gone way down to damn near none. It's like 90% of Orthodox.
What percent of Americans are Orthodox Christian? We're talking a tiny percent.
Christianity is booming across this country.
That's not what I asked.
How many? I'm not sure how many.
It's a fraction of a percent. We're talking. I haven't looked it up. I'll ballpark it. Probably 3% of Americans are Orthodox.
Because see, here's the thing: is once again, it doesn't matter the kind of Christianity. The fact is,
it does. It very much does. Because if you look at like Protestant divorce rates, they're like equal with the normal population.
No, those are going down too. Divorce rates among Christians is going down.
They're at like 50% right now, Beth.
No, I'm pretty sure it was less than that last time I looked at it.
I mean, what, like, for, okay, so they yeah, okay, it is I thought I misspoke, maybe. I thought I was, like, overselling it. Yeah, Orthodox makes up less, a literal fraction of a percent. So to look at the divorce rates and not sure Orthodox could be doing good, they make up a fraction of this country. Most of this country is not conservative, Orthodox Christians, right? I wish they were. I mean, Beth, you and me agree on
Current
this.
divorce rates for Christianity. Some studies find similar rates to the general population. Around 25 to 33% of adults are experiencing divorce. Evangelical Christians, 26 to 38%.
Okay, so
So
basically in
again,
line with the current population, the same as the atheists, right? I mean, this is kind of a
atheists aren't
point.
even getting married. They're not even getting married.
They still are. They're getting married
They're
less
not even.
often. They're still getting married on, like, statistically, they're still getting married more often than they're.
Oh, I found this. I found this earlier. Shit. I'll look it up real quick.
But I guess while you're looking that up, I guess what is an example that is because of patriarchy that men are suffering? Because I want to respect what Grid said. He wants us to
Yep.
focus on the prompt. So not because of egalitarianism, not because of feminism, what is an example of because of the patriarchy that men are suffering more than women? Because I can give many examples. I have in my opening, like the female genital mutilation, the essay in the Congo. I can give those examples, and you'd agree with those. The Sharia
Those
law stuff.
cultures, what are those cultures based on? Because once again, we are talking about a population that, especially when it comes down to men who are patriarchal, okay, and not, little femboy feminists, okay, they already have a standard that they are trying desperately to keep. And what's happening is culture influences everything. You and I both know this. Kids learn what they live when they're watching TV, when they're listening to music, and everything is completely getting shit on by the decision to allow way too many freedoms, which also allowed all of this shit to blossom. So one, they have the weight of the natural or the organic foundation of patriarchy that they are desperately trying to carry. And really, because it's been practiced for so long, it's ingrained in your very fibers of your being. It's in your DNA to want to protect, to want to provide, to, be the hunter, to be, you know what I'm saying? It's completely instinctual. So you guys already have that. And then you've got everything else that pushes on it, which came from their very own decision to allow women to have too many freedoms because they complain too much, quite frankly.
I feel like, with respect, Beth, I feel like that's not. I feel like I've given you
You're
a few
bringing up
examples of
civilizations
suffering
like the
that
Congo,
is
and let's talk about the Congo. What's the predominant religion in the Congo?
Christianity.
Are you sure? Look it up for me,
Yeah,
please.
I will.
And also, how many, if it's Christian,
Yeah, it's Christianity. Yeah.
what is the rate of the things that you're claiming taking place under a predominantly Christian nation? Because nobody who's been evangelica, I can't say that word, into Christianity, anyone who's accepted Christianity would not do that. That's not within those patriarchal
Look,
realms.
I agree,
This
but
is
I feel like
something
we're coming, and I think we've come to a no true Scotsman fallacy a few times here, where
as
that's all
far
fine
as
and dandy, but these are things that are taking place under the patriarchy. You can say, "Oh, that's not really a patriarchy. It's not really Christianity." These
Yep.
are these are places where men are in charge, which is definitional patriarchy, and it is
kind of like the U.S.
right. But with the Congo again, it's like 10% of the government is women. So we're patriarchy. I've already defined it. It's not a binary. It's always on a spectrum between that and egalitarianism.
They
I mean,
are two completely different ideologies.
They are, but they're on a. Do you understand? They're on a spectrum, right? Like you would say in America, as feminism has gone through its waves, there has become less and less patriarchy. That means definitionally that patriarchy, they're not just dichotomized binary things that you just flip from one to the other in a second. you are on a scale of patriarchy, and as patriarchy goes down, egalitarianism goes up, right? I mean, you would agree with that, surely.
Two separate ideologies. Okay.
Yeah,
That
but they blend together, right? Like
I
the
think
less
that
patriarchy, it's not like one ends. You're even arguing that we live in a patriarchal society now, Beth. So
yes,
then you have to admit that
I think that
egalitarianism has some intersection with patriarchalism, right? You have to admit that.
egalitarianism has been, how am I wording this? It's like I said, this is something that has been wanted for a very long time. Some cultures already practiced this, okay? And sure, science seemed like a good idea when it got kicked off. But here's the problem: I can agree with you on the sense that you can get some men who are patriarchal who are like, oh, well, I don't mind my wife doing, working the whole time that we're married and sending our kids to school. And in all actuality, that plays more into capitalism because families can't afford to stay home anymore, right? At least not without the man working himself to death at like 2 or 3 jobs, right?
Okay.
So the fact that the patriarchy allowed this to happen would mean that that would still be a result of them suffering under the patriarchy, right?
Okay, so it sounds like you
Didn't you just
now agree
didn't you
with
just
me.
tell me they blend together? They blend together. They're the same organism. It's just a spectrum. So technically, they're still patriarchal. They just, are letting their women do all this stuff. So therefore, you're kind of
Beth,
thinking about it. You just proved my point. If I take
Beth,
your way of it,
okay, then we agree. You agree that the U.S. is still, by definition, a patriarchy, right? Under like every modern definition, but you would say it's less patriarchal than it was 200 years ago. So you acknowledge me that it is that patriarchalism, the
gone down.
patriarchy is a spectrum. It goes up and down, and
I'm gonna play this idea
the more
with
you
you.
move
Okay?
up, you lose.
Okay.
Egalitarianism comes in. That's what I'm not saying they're like cohesive ideas that form. I'm saying the more egalitarianism you have, by definition, you have less patriarchy. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we agreed upon that because the thing is, again, this is an ideology that's trying to suppress patriarchy.
Oh,
Okay,
exactly.
Dream.
So the
It's that
two
pipe dream of
ideologies can happen at the same time.
It's that
right?
pipe dream of overthrowing the man, right?
Right.
And so therefore, the men are still suffering in patriarchy, trying to fucking survive in a nation that's being taken over by egalitarianism.
Okay, great, Beth. Now,
It's
can
like
you
I
give
said in
me
my
again?
opening,
I've given
they
you numerous
already have this
examples.
set of standards that they live by, and now society, our culture, which is being taken over by feminism and egalitarianism, has placed a whole secondary set of standards on them. So
I
how
agree,
are
but
they not suffering under patriarchy?
We're not here to talk about feminism
How
and
are they not
egalitarianism.
suffering under patriarchy? Remember, like you said, it's an outside factor.
Well, exactly. I'm saying that the more the less patriarchy we have, the more egalitarianism we have. And
So here's my point. If the men stopped holding up all of the foundational beliefs and drives of patriarchy, would they suffer less?
No, they would suffer more.
Why? How?
Because we've crossed, if you've been, I don't know if maybe I haven't been communicating what I've been trying to say, but we need a certain amount. I'm not anti-patriarchy. I said that not in my opening.
I know you conceded a lot of my points tonight.
I didn't concede to any of your. The point wasn't, is patriarchy good, Beth? The prompt was, who suffers more under it. I agree with the patriarchy, but if you have too much patriarchy, women will suffer more. And if you have too much egalitarianism, then women will suffer more too, and so will men.
All right. So if women are going to suffer more, no, because the women would be under egalitarianism anyways, according to your idea of thinking, right? Isn't that what you're putting here?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay. Let's try this again. Men already have a set of standards that they are fighting to hold up. It's literally ingrained in your DNA to be a certain way for your family. Okay?
Sure.
everything that men have allowed is still under the patriarchy.
I mean,
It's still under. It's.
I guess. I guess then you're just inflating.
And how are
patriarchy.
men doing today? How are our men in our country doing today?
Yeah, but then okay, so it sounds like you're blaming patriarchy for those things.
No, what I'm
Like-
saying is that underneath patriarchy, within patriarchy, because of even because of their decisions and the very shit that they're hardwired with and what has allowed to happen, they're fucking suffering a hell of a lot more.
Right, but okay, so just to
Right.
clarify, you agree with me, it's not because of patriarchy. Men are not suffering because of patriarchy. They're suffering because of egalitarian and feminism influences that patriarchy has allowed in. Is
Grid,
that what
one
you're
more
saying?
time. Men
Okay.
have it worse under patriarchy, correct? That's the prompt.
That is,
That is the prompt.
and which is why I'm saying that
today.
this is a current,
Yeah, it's
right?
not-
Like we're talking about today.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
talking
is
about.
that in,
I made the assumption. Now you guys, you know,
that
you
wasn't
guys are
in
the
the
ones
prompt.
debating.
I'm
this.
talking about patriarchy in general.
Yes,
I'm
men.
not talking about U.S. in
Men
the past
have it
100 years.
harder.
That's a myopic view of patriarchy, I think.
Men have it harder under patriarchy. Okay, do you see that is our prompt? Okay,
Right,
and
I'm
that goes
curious.
through the whole span. So, because of what they've already hardwired, plus everything within society, how am I wrong?
I guess I'm trying to make some ground here. Do you think that men have it harder because of patriarchy? Or is it just, I mean, I don't know why you're putting your head in your hand, Beth.
The
That's
prompt
a
is
sincere
men
question.
have it
Look, I don't
harder
fuck the
under.
prompt. I'm asking you a question. That's jejune to the prompt. I'm sincerely
It's
curious.
not
Do
fuck the prompt.
you think that the hardness that men face, do you think it's because of patriarchy? That's a simple question. It's not a gotcha. I just want to know what you
I
think.
think that if men were able to override their instinctual drive for the things that for everything that they are, being aggressive, being the hunter, being the freaking, breadwinner, shit, this is my family. Okay. If men could override that and conform to society, to the society that has unfortunately been allowed to blossom, it wouldn't be so hard for them. However, I like men that way. The patriarchy is necessary. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of people running around making some of the worst decisions we've ever seen in human history.
I agree. I'm still Beth, you're gonna put your head in your hands again.
I know. I'm
Do
sorry.
you
I'm
think
sorry.
that
I can't help
are
it.
we suffering? Are men suffering because of patriarchy? Because
Are
like
they
I have a problem. I'm trying to adjust to the prompt change on the fly, but nowhere in the prompt does it indicate modern. Nowhere does it indicate the United States locally. So I don't see why I can't talk about Sudan or Somalia or any of the Sharia law. Like nowhere does it say, because why not just say, do men suffer more now in the United States? We're talking about patriarchy.
No, wait.
Patriarchy is broad in space and time.
You brought up Sharia law.
Yes,
And,
because that's an example of a patriarchy.
I agreed with you that there are brutal things that happen in there.
Right.
But when those men do brutal things to women, other men exact social justice on them.
And you think it balances out? You think that the
No,
men suffered, so the women suffer? So at least in that patriarchy,
maybe
you think
more
women
men.
suffer more.
Maybe more men are killed due to accusations than women are hurt. We don't know. Where's the accounting for it? Who's keeping
do you
count?
Think that?
No, I don't. I don't know what I think about it because there is no count kept. There's no records of this. If you can find me records of how many men have been unalived by other men for crimes in those countries, I'd love to see them. But the thing is, they catch somebody doing something and
you
they
snuck
take them out
something in there, Beth, though. You snuck in crimes. I'm saying that women will often get punished where there is no crime that has been committed. And that's something that is a unique thing, like with honor killings and stuff. There's no crime that has been committed.
I didn't say that all groups of men do nothing but good things. There are groups of men that do bad things around the world. It happens. Guess what? There's also groups of women that do horrific things.
Sure. Yeah.
Horrific things. There's a woman in Australia who just poisoned her entire in-laws with a fucking death cap mushroom. Uh, uh, what is it there? The beef, beef Wellington. Her husband just her husband decided not to come home from work that day, and he's the only one that lived. Took
Yeah.
out his whole family.
Women and men both do terrible things.
Exactly. And
But the question is who suffers more under patriarchy? Again, there wasn't a
yes.
qualification of either time nor place. And even if we
Ooh,
want to limit to
yes.
modern times, there's
I
certainly no
know.
limit to
I
place.
didn't do that. I said across time. When you look at the expectations that are put on men under patriarchy, and then you want to add all this bullshit that's happened, even adding it over time, the bullshit that has come out of feminism, men have this horrific balancing act they're trying to keep, and it's running them into early graves.
Right. I feel like
How is that not harder under the patriarchy?
I mean, from what you said, sure, that would be harder for how long has the modern feminist movement been going, right? So yes,
Oh no.
if that well,
Fred's
no,
gonna get mad at me. I don't want to bring that up. Listen,
I know, but like
even,
that's like if we're taught again, like this is why I said in my opener, we have to be able to jump around in fourth dimension in both time
like
and
said,
location because patriarchy is not. There's nothing in the prompt that indicated time or place. So and you, but you did say you said right there something that I think we can maybe make fertile ground on. You said the expectations of men are so onerous, even outside of all this, outside of feminism. So I guess I would say,
well, feminism has been around for all of history.
but not
Feminism
in any
starts at the beginning, sweetheart. I mean,
not in a not in any like real way though, right? Like the modern
in
feminist
the third,
movement
no,
is
in the 3rd century BC, they literally burned their clothes and jewelry, and they blocked the Senate doors and protested.
I
And
know there
threw
were
a
there were
total
small
hissy fit over
microcosms of
perfume.
feminism. This is kind of like when trans people say that like trans exists in like all cultures because they can point to like one weird tribe where like
Are you
trans
kidding?
people existed.
Look, we can go back even further and look at things like the Epic of Gilgamesh, where in that, the goddess freaking like tortures him. Okay, the goddess of love and war, Ishtar, attacks and destroys men who reject her advances. Isis, sure, motherhood and protection and all that. She became a huge cult which spread to Greece and Rome and Afghanistan, and is the most widespread female deity in antiquity. And that goes, I mean, feminism has been alive and well
Okay,
for
so
thousands
far
of
you've
years.
shown me examples of goddess worship. I acknowledge that's from the beginning. I don't see where are you connecting goddess worship to something being against the patriarchy.
I got a perfect one for you.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the demoness Lilith?
Yes.
The
Intimately.
The great semen demon herself. For the crowd, for the audience who don't know,
Yeah.
she's part of a Jewish myth which says that men who have wet dreams did so because Lilith came in the night and took his sperm to create demons with it, and he is now married to her, and he must create an incantation bowl and offer alimony payments and bury them outside the door every time he has a wet dream as part of a divorce process.
Okay, this is getting a little away from the normal
Okay.
Lilith
No, I'm
lore of
saying,
her
look,
just being Adam's first wife, which is deeply
no,
rooted in the Kabbalah.
I'm familiar with the Kabbalah. I've read it.
Right. That's the we're going into some like deep cuts if we're talking about the alimony payment thing. I
Oh,
think you know
I got
that.
some stuff. We'll talk about that later. I got some
Yeah.
really cool links for you
Okay,
about her
great.
history.
But how is this anti-patriarchy? Obviously, yeah, people have worshipped the divine feminine. I don't see how that like is that worshiping goddesses is not feminism. I'm sorry if you compare that to like the US and the fucking feminist movements. That is just not comparable to like people worshiping Isis or worshiping
what I said
all
is
the
that,
god like Hecate and everyone. Like that there's no connection.
listen, these are the roots. These are the ancient roots, and it progresses over time to where they do start by the 3rd century BC, they are becoming violent. They are demanding
In
rights.
one
They are
instance,
doing
I mean,
all of this stuff.
look, do you know how
And
many
this just
goddesses are in the pantheon of Greece? Do you think people worshiping Athena was therefore an indication of feminism?
when our forefathers came to the United States, the goal was to set up a patriarchal run society where shit was supposed to flow nice and smooth, and they were escaping all of that culture over there, which had been brewing for thousands of years. Okay? And the very first thing that we get over here, where you want to start seeing some feminism kicking up, you've got the Salem witch trials. Okay? And that can go both ways, where women did bad things and then men did bad things.
Wait, so what are you saying about the just I don't know if I want to ask this, but what are you saying about the Salem witch
What I'm
trials?
saying is this is the
Don't
first
hurt my
leakage
soul,
of
Beth.
feminism. This is your first leakage of feminism into the United States. And from there it only progresses.
Okay,
Where over
can you
time,
unpack that? How is the Salem
oh
witch
my
trials
gosh.
the first impetus into feminism?
It's the first large documented one of it, where you have women who are making claims and actually getting people killed. And for no good reason either.
Like,
Okay.
do you think they were actually witches, or what do you?
No, I think they were spoiled little girls who didn't like their neighbors.
And
That's
that's
what I think.
feminism? No, I'm not trying to play
Point
dumb with
is,
you. I'm trying to honestly figure out how the
I'm
Salem witch
happy to
trials
break
is an
this down
advent
with
of
you more
feminism.
later, because
No,
I get
I
it.
mean,
I'm
if you
not sure how.
give me a brief sentence on how the Salem witch trials is an example of early feminism, because to me that sounds not accurate.
Not accurate in what way?
I would need you to justify in any sense of the word that the Salem witch trials was an example of
Oh
feminism.
my God.
I don't even know what you mean by that, Beth. Truly, I don't know what you mean by that.
This was an uprising of young girls who literally just started making accusations against their neighbors. Okay, is it feminism to a T? No, no, no. They're not sitting there doing. You can see the progression. This shit still takes place
So is
today. It's
feminism any
more
time a
right
woman
inverted
like
here.
rebels? I honestly I'm trying to understand what the connection there would be.
They had multiple prominent men within the community killed. You're aware of that,
Okay.
right?
So
As well as women who were actually, one of them was the midwife, for Christ's sake, who didn't do a damn thing. And it's all because, oh, look, what I am saying to you, okay, is that you can see it bleed into our country when it wasn't supposed to. This was supposed to be built on they wanted a good patriarchal foundation. However, we have this shit that has bled in. And the thing is, the men now went from, we're just going to do the patriarchy, we're going to, keep our expectations that were had of us and try to be good men to our families. And you just see it happen all over again. And eventually someone says, yes, dear, okay, let's give the women this. Let's give them, let's try to do something to appease them, because they just get louder and louder. And it's more, like you said, it's morphed and bled right into this clusterfuck that we have now. And I don't understand how you can't see the impact of the original expectations, as well as everything that comes with modern feminism and egalitarianism on men.
I don't know. I feel like we're having two different discussions. I think I've been very clear that I can see the impact. I am not a feminist. I think feminism has brought
Okay.
in innumerable evils. So I don't know how to communicate to you that I agree with you, Beth, that in
Okay,
modern
no.
society, I think
Okay,
feminism has
cool. We
cucked all of
agree.
us.
We agree, and that's all I care about, man.
Right, but that's
I
only
don't think we're as far off as as it's coming across that we are. I think that you're
I don't
just
think
kind
it
of.
is, and that's why. But it seemed like maybe that was unwanted from the chat or from Grid. That's why I wanted to kind of punt back into history to get to the roots of this. Because I think throughout time and space, patriarchy has harmed women more than men. Because to go into the modern era, I think you and me both agree that, like, yeah, feminism has cooked both men and women. I don't know who suffers more now. I mean, women get driven into stuff like OnlyFans. Women get like tricked into
Driven?
having abortions. Women are like
Oh,
destroyed nowadays by egalitarianism too.
wait
So
a
like
second. Wait a second. So are you saying that women are forced into doing these things? They're not.
I said, they're tricked into doing these things.
Okay.
And
I can
you'd
agree
agree with
with that.
that.
I can
right?
agree with that.
They're sold a bill of
Because
lies.
here's the
They're
thing is
told with abortion,
absolutely
they're
they are
told it's
sold a
not
bill
a
of lies
baby
completely.
inside them. With
But here's the thing.
OnlyFans, they're told it's a legitimate career path, right? So we both agree that they're
But guess
deceived.
what? They really don't give a shit about it when it's done and over with. The vast majority of them don't. And who suffers the most is the fucking oh my gosh. Like imagine the poor guy who finds out his girlfriend's been trying to have an OnlyFans site while he's trying to pay the bills and keep things going and she thinks she's helping. Okay, let's say she
Okay,
is.
okay. Actually, a jejune question: who do you think suffers more, the girl who's tricked into starting an OnlyFans because she's been told by culture that that's an acceptable career path, or the guy who buys the OnlyFans and jerks off to it once in a while? Who is the one getting the shit end of the deal? Because a guy can do that and just cancel the subscription at some point, realize he's a simp, and then go on with his life. That girl, her stuff is on the internet forever. I mean, she's been lied and deceived more by feminism, which I guess you could say is
Here's
under
the
the
problem.
patriarchy.
Here's the problem in our society. The shame levels are almost non-existent. Okay,
But
they
they exist
have
a lot
been.
more
They
for
have.
men, for
They
women than for
believe
men, right? Like
it is
if I confess
acceptable.
to people that I subscribe to an OnlyFans, that's like I can easily recover from that. But if a woman says, "Oh, I used to have an OnlyFans," that's a bigger thing to
Honey,
overcome.
it is acceptable only with it depends on who you're talking to, right? Depends on your audience. Because here's the thing, I could go put on a very low cut V-neck shirt and a tight little fucking mini skirt and go to a club, and who's gonna shame me?
I I mean, are you just putting on the clothes, or are you like starting OnlyFans in this example?
Just going to the club looking like I fucking probably do. If I were to go to a club looking like I do have an OnlyFans, who's gonna
Yeah, then
shame me?
I think we've
Wait,
lost
wait,
a lot
wait,
of
wait. Stay
cultural
with my
shame.
question for a minute. Stay with my question for a
I'm
minute.
trying to answer it.
Okay, sorry. Sounded like you were going off somewhere else. Stay with my question. Who's going to shame me for it?
I think there will be conservative men that will look down on that woman as a thrill foe,
What's going to
right?
happen to my man who's sitting at home from all of his friends who hear about me being out at that club and seeing a picture of me out at that club?
Well, yeah, I mean that man's got to get his house in order. I think we both agree with that,
The other men would eat him alive.
right?
However, there's very few people to shame me. Why would I care about a random person's opinion?
Do you really think that? Like, look at like something like the
I
Whatever
watch it.
podcast.
I see it every day. I see
The
it
women who go
every
on there
day.
get a lot of attacks, and I mean, I think we should bring shame back, right? Like
I
we shouldn't
agree.
encourage that.
I agree.
But I
I
think
agree.
again, to my original question, who gets more shame? The guy who buys the OnlyFans? Because let me tell you, you know this. That's why women want to go on to Whatever podcast. They go on, they get a massive boost in their OF, which means a bunch of people watching Whatever podcast. They might talk all their shit in chat, but they're buying those OFs, they're buying those subscriptions. Who gets more shame? That guy who can do it in private, or that girl whose face and body is plastered on the internet forever?
The problem is that, oh, you see, perfect. Because here's the thing is we are talking about patriarchal men. And like I said, within the definition, every family is a patriarchal system. Every single one of them. I don't give a shit if they say no, we're not. Yes, they are. Whether they like it or not, they're just deluding themselves to thinking that they're not. And at the end of the day, she's going to be like, that was when I was 18. Who cares about that? Meanwhile, the husband's having a fucking heart attack in the next room. And she's saying, "Oh, you're fine, honey. Just take something for it. You'll be fine." And the next, okay. Men get downplayed so badly
Do you
when it
feel
comes down
bad
to
for
how it
the
affects
but
them.
Beth? Do you feel bad for those people? Like, do you know who Adam 22 is? You feel
Vaguely.
okay, so he's someone who had let his wife be, I don't know how to say this
Okay,
in
he's
a
a cuck. I
TOS
got it.
way,
He's a
be
cuck.
involved with other men on camera and stuff.
Sure.
Do you feel bad for Adam 22? Do you feel bad for a Destiny? No, nobody does. Like, so like, who cares? They're making bad choices, and
These are
men
men.
judge them. Do you feel
You're
bad?
talking
I
about
feel worse
men
for the
who you're
women who
talking
were
about
lied
men
to
who are
think
not
that this was a good
patriarchal
career
though.
choice.
You're talking about men who don't have any kind of regard when it comes down to patriarchy. As a matter of fact, I'm
Exactly,
pretty
but that's
sure.
what you're talking about, Beth. You're talking about the guy who's at home, who's like begging his wife not to do OnlyFans and is like okay
No,
with it. Well, she does it. Well, like fuck that
no,
guy. We would both say fuck that guy. He should like get his house in order.
no, and that's not what I said. What I said is, what is he going when he finds out his girlfriend has an OnlyFans? What does he go through from his friends finding out? From who, when he finds out this shit, what kind of damage do you think goes on to him to find out that the woman that he loves, that he's been taking care of for so long, has been doing this shit? She doesn't care. And 10 years from then, she's probably not going to care because she's going to be like, oh, you couldn't find it if you wanted to. I shut it down. It's a delusion. However, these men know, and they don't like their women being plastered all over the place. And it does affect the men far more than it affects the women because
I don't
shame
believe
has been
if you're a man who's
completely.
with someone who has an OnlyFans, don't you would agree with me, Beth? You kind of get what you deserve. If you're a guy and you're with a woman who has an OnlyFans, you fucked around and you
If you
found
know
out
she
and you
has an
get
OnlyFans,
shame. Yeah,
if
so
you,
you're talking, I guess, about a hyper-specific example where a woman is lying and somehow the guy doesn't know she has an own. That's not the majority of cases. The majority of cases is women start OnlyFans and people subscribe. And my question to you, which you still haven't answered, is who is suffering more? The woman who is tricked into starting OnlyFans or the people tricked into subscribing to her? Because again,
it
if
has
any of
nothing to do with the prompt, like I said, because these men are not operating under like a patriarchal system here.
That's such
It's
a
when you
cope,
get
Beth.
into.
That's such a cope. You're talking about
No,
who
it's
we're talking
not.
about who suffers more. We're not talking about do patriarchal
Do
men
you think
suffer
there's
more
a
under the
difference?
patriarchy.
Do
We're
you
talking
think
about who
there's a
suffers more,
difference?
men or women under patriarchy. You
Do
can't
you
just
think
like cut
there's
out a group of men.
do you think there is a difference that takes place, a change that happens in men when they fall in love with a woman and they marry her and are set on building a life and a family with her? Is there a
Yes.
change where
Yes.
maybe he might have been freaking a little degenerate before, but now he's like, I'm gonna have kids, I'm gonna raise a family, I'm gonna do it's instinctual.
Yeah.
You
And
can't help
I
it.
think I would say to be fair to the fairer sex, the change happens both ways. But yeah.
It should happen both ways. But the problem is that with the way things have gotten out of hand in society, there's a lot of women who really don't feel any shame about that stuff.
I know, but there
And
you
when
don't
these
think there's a lot of guys like look at like Fresh and Fit who say you should sleep with like 50 guys to get experience and to avoid a poverty mindset or whatever they say. I
I
mean, there's
don't
a bunch of
endorse
guys that
that
don't feel
behavior.
right, but so there's there's a bunch of guys that don't feel shame about sleeping around and on whatever podcast at least the woman will get called out and will say, hey, you can't just sleep your way when you're 18 to 28 and expect a good guy's going to settle down, but the other way we don't give that
Do
message
you
to
think these
guys.
men are operating under support of any kind of patriarchy?
No, but I don't think the women are
No,
either.
they're not exactly. And
That's
that's
not the
why
that's not
what
the
we're
that's not the
discussing
question.
men.
We're not talking about do patriarchal men suffer more under patriarchy. You're
Do
adding
men
stuff to the prompt. The prompt is do
do
men suffer more under patriarchy?
do men have it
I'm going into a
harder
realm of
under
modern day
patriarchy?
US and you're still changing the prompt to are
No.
those men patriarchal or not? That's not the fucking
Do
question.
men have it harder under patriarchy?
Exactly, not do
Men who are under
patriarchal men.
patriarchy have it harder for all of these reasons, even including the red pillars you're bringing up, because it's
Okay,
just tainting the women
but
pool.
I'm saying you have to admit we have to look at all men. We can't just look at the men who have patriarchal aspirations and decide if they have it harder under patriarchy. We have to look at all men. And so I ask you
Okay.
again with the OnlyFans, I still want a freaking answer from you, Beth. Who suffers more? The OnlyFans girl that makes the OnlyFans and is plastered forever, or the guy who subscribes? You know it's
I
the woman
can't.
that
I don't
suffers
know
more.
because I don't think either of them feel much shame about it.
You, come on, we haven't gone that
I
far. We've
really
gone
don't.
far as a society, but OnlyFans women, they are still shamed about it.
How
I
many
mean,
men look at porn?
uh, uh, almost all of them. But that's what I'm saying. They can do
Do
that
they
in
care
secret.
about it?
No, because they can do that in secret and avoid social stigma. The women making the corn cannot do so in secret because their freaking faces everywhere. And so it'll
They
haunt them for the
still
rest of
don't.
their lives. I can just delete my search history and
Has
no one
Nala
knows.
Ray
You know,
expressed any actual fucking like regret?
I mean, this is a thing that me and Grid
That's a face that's
debated for a
plastered
long time
everywhere.
the other day.
That's a face that's got plastered everywhere for a second. Okay. Most of the women you're talking about, their faces don't get plastered everywhere like that. They're freaking so low tier, it's not funny. Most of them don't even get hardly any subscribers. It turns out to be a waste of time. And therefore, they care even less about it.
Those people, I think, are the most damned. If I
The
was to be
what?
real with you, at least the null arrays have millions of dollars. The women that get tricked and end up making $100 a month, that can come up and
This
haunt them
still
in
has
future
nothing to do with
relationships
the
and
men.
employment.
This goes right back to having nothing to do with the men. We keep straying off the topic, hon.
I don't think I'm trying to go into your talk. I wanted to talk about patriarchy in general. You wanted to talk about the modern day. We're talking about the modern day. I'm going into your OnlyFans thing, which I don't think is a result of the patriarchy. I think under the patriarchy, we wouldn't even have
You brought up
OnlyFans at all.
OnlyFans.
I know, but I'm saying that's the stuff that you're talking about. That's the feminism that you're talking about. You were talking about the corrupting influences of feminism and
I brought up
egalitarianism.
I brought up basic even materialism and the ideas that, families don't need to stay together. These are the things I brought up in my opening.
I know, but I'm saying
And
you would
what else I
acknowledge.
brought up? What else I
Surely the
brought up?
sexual, I mean, I don't think I need to walk you through this, Beth, but obviously the sexual liberation of women, that's what
Yep.
led to our third wave and fourth wave feminism, which is
Yep.
why we have stuff like OnlyFans. So I'm going down that road. I'm going down that road of how
Yes.
feminism has corrupted the patriarchy and who suffers more. And even under that lens, it sounds like you can't give a good argument how men suffer more because the men are just the people purchasing the pornography and the women are the one who are acting in it and who are splattered on the internet for all
They
time.
now consider porn addiction to be a really serious problem for men. Okay, where it changes their ability to even enjoy sex. Okay, so that is a real thing. So again, you're acting like, oh, the women have it worse. I'm telling you, because the society encourages the behavior and there is such limited shame anymore, it's not like that. And when we're talking about men suffer, do men have it harder under patriarchy? That was the prompt.
Yes.
The bottom line is that there's freaking probably at this point millions of men who are being sold a fake bill of goods, who have their families getting tainted by society and manipulated. And I'm going to start going into a closing here in a minute. I don't, you've already agreed with me that, men do suffer under this. And it is a matter of they actually do have it harder for the simple fact that most women don't feel any shame about this. And I don't understand how we're talking past each other. I really don't.
I don't understand either because I think both genders suffer in today's society, but I think that women
All people suffer.
Women suffer exclusively because of patriarchy, and you haven't given me a single example, and I've asked you repeatedly on when do men suffer because of patriarchy. They might suffer in spite of patriarchy, which is situations like porn addiction. That's in spite of patriarchy, but that's not because of it. And if you don't have one, that's fine. You can say that's not the prompt. But I'm just curious if you have a single example where men suffer more because of patriarchy than women.
Men have it harder under. This is like the 10th time I've said it.
I'll try to listen for the 11th then, Beth. I'll really try.
Listen on.
Yeah.
Men have it harder under patriarchy because they have the patriarchal duties and then they have the additional new expectations that are put on them that have come with modernity and the poisoning of our society.
Okay, so you're not answering my question. To be clear,
they fucking allowed.
You're not. So again, you're not answering my question. I said, is there an
Women
area?
Women
I don't know how I can be more
Women
clear.
don't have.
Do you have an example where men suffer because of patriarchy? I could steel man your position, Beth. I could give you reasons where I think men suffer more. Male disposability. There you go. You want me to throw you a freaking lead? Male disposability. I'm trying to get something going here.
Yes, I brought this all up. That was part of the whole patriarchal expectations that I brought up.
Exactly. That's what I want. That's what I want to ask.
Women don't have those patriarchal duties. They don't have those expectations.
Right, but they have similar expectations. Right.
So men are carrying a double duty load here.
Well, no, I mean women and men both have responsibilities under a patriarchy, right? Maybe we could move into whose is worse because women bearing children, women taking care of the children, that's a massive duty. That's the backbone of civilization, right? I mean, they're raising both genders. The woman being at home is raising both the females and the
No,
males to
not
be.
anymore, but they should be.
I
And
know we're talking about
honestly,
under patriarchy.
under patriarchy, staying home with my children for the years that I got to were the best fucking years of my life. And I don't know many mothers who don't agree with me.
Right, but it's a big
Books are
it's a
fun.
big responsibility. Yes, I mean if you raise those children incorrectly, I mean you bring shame upon yourself, right? Like if you are the
Sure.
chief caregiver of those
Everybody
children,
has that. Everybody has
exactly,
that. Everybody
exactly. So
faces that.
right, so I would say men have responsibility to provide and care and for their household and to
Who
protect their
disciplines the
household.
kids more? Who disciplines the kids more, mom or dad?
In now or in throughout history?
What's the good old saying? Just wait till your father gets home.
Yeah, I don't know how true that is now, but yeah. I think women are probably more in charge of discipline now, to be honest with you,
Even
because they
single
face more of the
mamas
day
be
to
calling
day.
up their exes going, talk to your kid. Here. They do it all the time. They're like,
Yeah, I mean, possibly. Women are in charge more of the day to day discipline, and the guy comes home at the end of the day, and then he might lever out the severe punishments. I agree with you, but under most patriarchal societies, women are in charge of the kids on a day to day basis. I don't know why. Do you disagree?
the men are more impactful on the children than the women are.
I flat out disagree with that. That's crazy. Under a patriarchal society where like the women are doing
Yes.
the guys go, if we look back in
I'll
history,
tell
the
you
guys
why.
go off to
I'll tell
war
you
like
why.
during the
I'm going to tell
Trojan
you
War.
why
The
right
guys
now.
are going
Listen,
for years at a
even in
time.
a divorce situation, I'm going to tell you why. Because that child knows mom is always there. So when they do get time with dad, they cling to it and they cherish it and it sticks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 9:30.
Okay.
Thank God I made it.
I feel like a broken record.
I actually really can't wait to hear closings. We will do callers next. Callers,
Oh, Lord God Almighty.
all you need to do is to go over to my Discord. You go to the waiting room, take your place in line. We will go in order. I'm not doing a panel. I'm not going to have 8 people up here. It's going to be one at a time. You're only going to get a couple of minutes. It's not going to be a 20-minute back and forth. I would like to go ahead and do closings. Beth, you started. So, Confluence, you go first with your closing.
Okay. All right. Beth had the affirmative position to show that men suffer more under patriarchy than women do. I do not think this has been shown. I want to reiterate that if we're talking about patriarchy versus matriarchy or egalitarianism, we can't use boots on the ground biological facts to either blame or elevate patriarchy. There are certain things that are not attributable to a system of political or social governance and instead are related to the sexual dimorphism present within the human species, as Beth pointed out in her opening. This would include things like men doing disproportionately hard work, playing a protector role, doing military service. These things are true under any system, not just under patriarchy, because they would just be the de facto way things are going to be run when you have one sex that is significantly more biological capable than the other in terms of things like physical strength, stamina, etc. These are simply the biological cards that we've been dealt and have nothing to do with patriarchy. I think it is evident both from looking at the arc of history and at parts of the world now, specifically the Islamic world or parts of Africa, that when patriarchy goes too far, women suffer enormously. Whether it's the 230 million girls that are subject to genital mutilation every year or the 50% of Congolese girls who have been essayed, we can clearly see the disastrous consequences of patriarchy when taken to its extreme and not balanced with the degree of egalitarianism. There's a pertinent John Lennon and Yoko Ono song whose title speaks to the endless horrors that women have been subjected to in any parts of the world throughout the aeons. I will not say the name of the song, but real ones will know it. Note, I am not anti-patriarchy. I just think the patriarchy, when left without checks and balances, will skew more toward hurting women than men. This could be because men set up the system. This could be because the fairest sex has been cursed by God himself to be oppressed and have men rule over her. This could be because of simple biological sexual dimorphism that makes men simply the physically stronger sex. Whatever the reason, men have historically been the ruling sex throughout space and time. And because of our fallen nature, this has led to a truly uncountable number of abuses against women everywhere. I think it therefore inconceivable to think that men have had it worse under patriarchy than women. Again, to reiterate though, I'm neither anti-patriarchy nor am I pro-feminism. I just think, as I mentioned in my opener, where I made the analogy to capitalism, that unbridled forms of good systems can lead to subpar outcomes. And this is the case with both capitalism and patriarchy. We need a bit of egalitarianism to improve the lives of women. Regressive laws like those found in the ancient world led to disproportionate suffering against women, and we see that disproportionate suffering still playing out in the world today. There is, of course, the flip side of this, which is too little patriarchy, and this is what me and Beth disagreed on, I suppose. This has resulted in the breakdown of the nuclear family, a rise in divorce, a rise in single-parent households, sites like OF seeming like good career opportunities, genocidal levels of abortion, and everybody being incredibly depressed and heavily medicated. This is why I am not anti-patriarchy. Too much patriarchy is bad, but so is too little. And there is a proper balance that we, if we can find it, can live happier, more meaningful, more fulfilled lives than we're currently leading. But nevertheless, I must assert again that it's simply wild to me to think that men suffer and have suffered more under patriarchy than have women. To stack up responsibility and duty with endless subjugation and a complete lack of agency and autonomy is to me inconceivable. I think that while both men and women have it hard under any system of governance of cultural expectations, it is just almost self-evidently true that women have suffered more as a result of patriarchy than men have. Again, to repeat myself, we must vacuum out the intractable suffering that is simply due to sexual dimorphism. We cannot look at that most men die in war or break their backs in hard labor. These are the results of humanity and have nothing to do uniquely with the patriarchy or the matriarchy or egalitarianism or any other system. Conversely, the suffering women undergo is, to a large extent, because of the patriarchy. And this is why I asked Beth repeatedly for examples of when men suffer because of the patriarchy. And I don't think I've heard one yet. On the other hand, I hope I've demonstrated that the suffering men undergo it is not because of patriarchy, but is simply in spite of it or due to other things like progressivism, postmodernism, or egalitarianism.
Okay, that was well within time. Beth, whenever you're ready.
First of all, you have horrible taste in music. Um, sorry, joking. I'm joking. So my opponent keeps going back to this is all in. Oh, first and foremost, I want to reiterate the prompt that we said at the beginning. We said it again. Men have it harder under patriarchy. He wants to know if it's in spite of and not because of. And keeps going back to the idea that the duties would still be the duties no matter what sex you are, okay? No, I didn't write an opening. I'm not sure how he wrote that so fast. It Men do suffer more under patriarchy because it is the double duty that I talked about. They have these expectations that are already on them that is absolutely genetic, whether they want it or not. This is something that has been ingrained in men since the beginning of time to do these things for their family and for their communities. And yes, you're right. There's a lot of backbreaking labor involved. They become disposable when it's times we're in times of war. And really, in a lot of ways, they miss out on a whole lot of the family stuff because they're never there because they're trying to take care of the family. This does not, motherhood is not an oppression of women. And society has not been oppressive of women in the way that you suggest, at least not here in the United States. And again, that has a lot more to do with our foundations, which began out as Christian patriarchy. And that was the goal of this nation. I can't speak to what happens in Congo because they started on a completely different platform with a completely different God and a completely different demands put on their lives. Okay, we don't even have like the same wildlife, and so it's a completely different environment. So I can't speak to it. Would it be good for them to change? Absolutely. And I think just like how we see Christianity spread throughout the world, this is something that should happen. But the problem still within our own borders comes down to the fact that men have become the second class citizens. It's not women that are. Women feel no shame. They're not taught any shame. They're raised to be princesses from the time they're little girls watching Disney movies. And dads do a great job because they love their daughters and they want them to be happy and have the best of everything. Unfortunately, the input from media as they grow up only morphs and twists that into something where sometimes they do become monsters. As far as men, as far as the abuse against women, I think that you can't even account for the abuse that happens against men because men don't report it. They do feel shame in those kinds of things happening to them because they have honor and they have integrity. And why would they want to admit that? So I don't think that's a factor that either of us could put in there. And other than to say it does happen and is probably another contributing factor to why men are so unhappy. At least, I mean, women, they talk about how unhappy they are. Men have to be stoic, whether they like it or not, whether they want to or not, because otherwise they're weak. And it's not fair to them to what the pressure that they get from women or even other men in our culture with the way that it is. So yes, men do have it harder under patriarchy for the simple fact of everything that's put on their plate and so much more, and being completely handcuffed while they're trying to deal with it. And thank you for agreeing with me on so much. See, I knew we could part being friends. And we got to talk about Lilith sometime. I got some cool stuff for you. I'm good. Good.
That's it. All right. Thank God it's over.
You're telling me.
How
the fuck are we talking past each other?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Beth. The reason that you guys were talking, there are two things here. I have a lot to say. I may pick this apart, which I never do. I may pick this apart in a review video. But first thing, when you sent me that prompt, I was like, really? But that was your prompt. I would have defined that much clearer. Beth, the first thing you have to do when you're the affirmatives is you have to frame the argument. You have to determine the framework of how this argument is going to be won. You did not do that at all. You gave no metric for what men suffering under patriarchy is. He never had to prove anything. He rambled for an hour and a half. Some of it was very intelligent rambling. However, it was mostly rambling because you were rambling and he had nothing to respond to. I have to pick on you the most, Beth.
Of course, I know.
Because it was your prompt. You should have tailored that thing.
It was the same one we just had on Friday.
I understand, but that's a 5-minute speed debate.
Fair.
Where
you said you wanted to see it in long form, so we did it long form.
Yeah. I was really surprised that you did it the way you did it. I was very surprised. Now, if I wanted to try to frame what you were saying, I would have first of all, I would have clearly defined we're talking about men have it harder under patriarchy. We're talking about in modern times. We're talking about the way that they suffer individually or as a group as a patriarch. This is something that you left out of every sentence. You always said men do this, men do that. We don't care what men do. We're talking about patriarchs in their daily lives, dealing with their families, dealing with their jobs, dealing with the world. Nobody gives a fuck what men do, Beth. Nobody gives a fuck. He rightly identified that. He beat your ass with that over and over again because you just kept saying men. Men. Fair. We live under, you also never said all systems have been patriarchal throughout history. And okay, fine. I'll grant you all the horrible things. I will grant you all the horrible things in the past. But right now, men are suffering, a lot of them in silence. Why? Because their women kill their kids. They're trying to lead. They're doing their best to lead, and women kill their kids. Sometimes without even telling them.
I brought that up in my prompt.
You brought it up. However, you didn't make that. You need it. It needs to be a separate point, Beth. You gave him so much room. He just ran around like a little wild Indian, smacking you around. He did a good job. He did a good job. He really did. He didn't do a great job, but he did a good job. I won't critique his argument because honestly, he did okay. But Beth, this was yours to win. You should have narrowed that prompt a lot. Men suffer in silence because if they fail, their entire family fails. If a man fails, it takes years to recover. When a woman fails, it's a week before she has a new man. Because of the patriarchy.
Brought that up in my prompt or my opening.
Again, clearly defined. And you didn't do anything about your opening in the first block of time. I had to stop you because you guys were debating obscure Bible verses that had nothing to do with any of this. And I like Bible time as much as anybody. I could have sat here and honestly sat here and listened for the whole hour and a half.
That's our shared passion. I think that's probably what's going to happen when Beth talk.
I'm actually at this point tired of Bible time. I had the stats for divorce rates and custody and everything, and I kept trying to move it over there.
Right. Men have it harder under the patriarchy because of the expectations they set for themselves. Women don't care. Women have no expectations.
Said. This
was yours to lose, Beth.
Yep.
This was yours to lose. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean. I'm really trying not to be mean. And I want to get our callers up. I know that they're standing by, they're patiently waiting.
Here we go.
But I just gotta I'm wrong. Come on up and prove me wrong, man. 10th man. You can just go over and get the prompt. I think you're third in line right now. Confluence, you got really lucky in a lot of ways because literally she just wasn't. She didn't prepare properly for this. I don't know why. I just feel like that it. You guys. And the thing is you were so close to each other that you kept talking. You were talking kind of past each other.
He conceded to so many of my points.
Right, but it doesn't matter. Just like 10th man saying that one point this dude made was valid. It doesn't matter because Beth never made a solid case for what she was doing. And he could simply say, yeah, but the patriarchy has been bad. The patriarchy out of control is bad. Sure, anything out of control is bad. You absolutely just grant that right out of the gate. Yeah, anything out of control. I understand that, but he kept bringing it up, and you didn't say, hey, I've already talked about that. Let's move on.
I did say that like twice, Grid, like twice. I said that at least twice. Yes, I did. I told you. I said we had a whole thing where I said I already granted that.
I understand. I heard that. I did hear that. But again, the main point is in today. Honestly, you kind of lost it in the prompt. And then you lost it in your opening because you really didn't define anything. You didn't force him to define anything, except when you started going into the Bible verses and going back into Neolithic, times that we don't care about. Like,
everything for modern.
I got you.
And I was trying to pull them over here. I know we both love Bible time. I do so much Bible time for Vibe. I'm tired. I was actually like, I got the Pew stats. I got this. I got that.
Yeah. I really feel like that it's this one, honestly, I felt like this was yours to lose, Beth. I really felt like that you were going to do a lot better on this, but I just feel like that you just you got, as he himself said, you got lost in the sauce, and I don't know. It was just very strange. Anyway,
bring him up so they can kick my ass.
The first caller. Let me. I got to go back to my thing here. let me make sure I got the right thing. So caller, I am sending you the link right now. You now have the link. Just go ahead and come on up. But inquisitive archivist enjoyed the debate and think you both did well. I don't think that you. Now, I need to say that I'm grading Beth on a high. I'm grading both of these guys on a high curve because I think they both have a lot of potential. And I think that they're not stupid. If they were stupid, I wouldn't care. So we'll wait for the panelists to come on up, or not panelists, but the caller. It's Thumping Weevil. Thumping Weevil. She may have kind of like zoned out. So Salem witch trials.
Wait, he asked where it got moved into the U.S. I brought up the very first.
Patriarchy got moved into the U.S. with the Pilgrims, baby. Patriarchy has been a part of patriarchy.
That was the point I made.
It's literally the form. It is literally in it. It is everything in the world. There is no. You know. Remember, I am the patriarchy. You've seen my super chats. You understand this is near and dear to my heart, and
which is why I granted the fact that feminism has existed. You're lucky because I could have gone into a whole spiel about how feminism has existed since the garden, and I didn't go there.
Weevil, if you're out there, please come on up. Or what is it? It's Thumping Weevil. Yes, please, Thumping Weevil, come on up. I've sent you the link. If not, I'm going to have to move on to my next caller.
Yeah, it's fucking
because we only have a few tonight. It's very strange. Wicked Wally sends in another $5. I'll go through the super chats in a minute, guys. I do apologize. I've been very, very busy. Tried to get them up on the board early. $5 came in. Know what ends this whole debate? It's called "We Do Some Universal Women's Unemployment." Ooh.